Well, welcome everyone. Um, Given we have a quorum, we'll be calling the meeting to order. The time is 4 p.m. Um, Rosie, just a quick question, given it doesn't look like we have the usual connection for public comment. Is that true?
I can still see like attendees and yeah. So
Okay, great. So still the
yeah.
regular script for public commentary and all
Yep,
that. Okay,
yep. Mhm.
great. All right. Well, welcome to the Thursday, September 2025 meeting of the Greenbelt Advisory Commission. This meeting is being held electronically. Please be patient if there are technical issues. Public comment will be via telephone only. Please know that if you're watching this meeting live online, there is a 30-second delay. To speak during any of the public comment opportunities, please call 1-877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 947-2712-0905. Again, that number to call is 1-877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 947-2712-0905. This information is also available on the published agenda in the public notices section of the city website and on the broadcast of this meeting on CTN channel 16, AT&T channel 99, and online at www.a2gov.org/watchctn. Please note that if you do call in for public comment, you must enter *6 to unmute yourself. All right, we will now take roll call attendance. When I call your name, please state that you're present by saying here or yes and the location from which you are attending. I can go ahead and start. Chairperson Laramie, attending from my home in Ypsilanti. Commissioner Armstrong? Not here. Commissioner Bloomer?
Here from Traverse City.
Commissioner Boggs? Here. Commissioner Buzzard?
Here from Ypsilanti.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here from north side of Ann Arbor.
Councilperson Malik?
Here, calling from Ann Arbor, Second Ward.
Commissioner Schuler?
Here from Ann Arbor.
And Commissioner Riggs?
Here from Ann Arbor.
Awesome. We do have a quorum, so we're gonna move on to approval of the agenda. Could we have a motion to approve today's agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Commissioner Riggs, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Bloomer, thank you. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so our agenda is approved. Next, we have approval of the meeting minutes from our last meeting. Those minutes were sent to us in our meeting packet. Thank you to city staff for providing those. Our last meeting was May 1st, 2025, so we did not meet in June, July, or August. It's been a long summer. So if folks want to take a minute to review those minutes, please do so, and then we'll ask for a motion to approve.
Elizabeth, I think you noticed an error in the minutes ahead of time.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had noticed that under 9 elections, there's a chair named London listed here, and we just need to correct that to, that would have been Chair Riggs made the motion to nominate Commissioner Laramie and Commissioner Bloomer.
I got the agenda, but I did not get the minutes. Were they in the email?
They are attached with the agenda. It should be in the same PDF.
Gotcha. Yep, all the way down.
Would anyone like more time to check out the agenda? Or I'm sorry, the minutes from our last meeting? All right. So let's see, can we say, do we have a motion to approve the May 1st meeting minutes with the correction that Commissioner Riggs put forward?
So moved.
Great, Commissioner Bloomer, thank you. And do we have support?
Seconded.
Commissioner Johnson, thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nays? Any? All right, and our minutes are approved. Great, so we will now hold public commentary. This is one of 2 opportunities to address the commission. Is anyone waiting to speak during public commentary?
There is no one waiting to speak at this time.
Okay. All right, so with that, we can move on to item, just double check here, 6 in our agenda, presentations with the staff report and budget review. So I'll turn it over to you, Rosie.
Hey, so good to see you. I hope you all had a wonderful summer. Alrighty, we have a lot to cover today. Mostly the blue belt, you guys. Okay, but first, we are starting with regular things. Not a lot of news, but some engagement we've been doing as the summer, lots of outdoor events in the summer. So yes, Greenbelt staff were invited to HRWC's to speak at HRWC's fundraiser. That was last night, and it was about the intersection of land preservation and water quality. Very apropos. And a couple weeks ago, OSI, the Office of Sustainability Initiatives, invited the Greenbelt to participate in their local food festival, where got a lot of people stopping by. And we were conveniently placed next to Vestergaard Farms, which has, they have 2 pieces of land and both have conservation easements on them. They were a useful talking point. But lots of good engagement from both of these events, and the Greenbelt will also be tabling at the Green Fair next Friday, the 19th. 19th? Yeah. I'm going to move right along, if it's okay, just to the budget. The budget is unchanged from May. We do not have an updated fund balance from the end of June still, so we're still working with March. Going through these items, I have still not heard anything from Fletcher, from the township about Fletcher. The last I heard is that they were unsure about moving forward. The St. John's and Enos projects I have been working on. We have secured surveys and ESAs. A little cleanup is needed on one of them. Been working on some title work with both. Getting the baseline documentation reports are going to start probably in October. And I've started drafts of the easement deeds. So moving right along. And Hicks and Morley. Hicks, I believe, is in, we reviewed that. We completed our review of Hicks. So the township is now getting ready to close that, I believe. And we are sort of at the end stages of reviewing the Morley materials. So those 2 should close, I hope, by the end of the year. And at which point, then whatever next project closes, it will tip us over 8,000 acres of Greenbelt funded projects. We are at 7,995.
Wow.
Hopefully we finish the year at that. All right. That was a short little budget and updates. Any questions? Alrighty. May I move on to the next agenda item?
Yes, please
All
go
right.
ahead. Also, congratulations, 8,000. That's awesome.
Almost.
Almost.
Knock on wood, Okay, so continuing Greenbelt scoring, we're still not approving it today, but thank you to everyone that submitted their revised scoring exercise. Still missing a couple if anyone would like to send those in, but we're very, very close. So I'm going to show you some big picture trends here and what the scoring is looking like. So for starting with agriculture, I wanted to point out that our talks, our conversations about these, discussions about the different scoring categories, I would say overall brought down the range of scores, got you all a little closer to consensus or similar ideas, at least on several categories. So yeah, the colors are just showing like where the range decreased, where it stayed the same, and where it went up. This is important information because it suggests to me, and after consultation with the GAC executive committee as well, that I am going to use the median scores as the basis for going after the actual total scores for each category rather than the mean. But these categories that have a large range, especially significant cultural value and conservation programs, I will use that high range to just adjust the medians slightly to account for that large range, tip them slightly in favor of, I guess, the mean, more where the big differences were, if that makes sense. So this will be close to what the scores are, but this is not what it will be. But these are the medians. So I was realizing I still want to decide whether we should, the goal was to get it out of 100 points. And I had you work with 200 points because it's a little easier mentally, I think, just to move more points around and establish what you think is different. So I need to decide whether to keep it at 200 or reduce it to 100 and finagle these. But this is what it looks like at the moment. And the big picture takeaway from there is sort of the change in, I guess, order in ranking. So what I'm showing here is like all the old categories on the left and how they were, how the points were distributed. So parcel size in our old scoring had the most points available to it. So I don't remember what it was, but let's say it was 30, and then natural features would have had like 28 or something. So it's going down from there. And the new order is our new categories that we decided on, ordered by the largest point totals at the top down to the lowest. So there's some significant change, which was the point of this exercise, to adapt, our current needs, or adapt the scoring system to our current needs and current interests and current version of the Greenbelt. I was somewhat surprised, I guess, that parcel size was still at the top, but just given like how we do more and more small projects, but it still has a good impact, So anyway, so I hope this is probably what is some more or less cemented at this point. I suppose pending the last two. Bentley, I got your email. I just didn't have time to like put it into everything, but thank you for emailing. But anyway, the couple that are missing, maybe we'll change something around, but I think it's going to be mostly this. So reflect on that if you'd like before the next meeting. Thoughts on that or questions on that? Okay, I'll go on to the natural space then. I don't have the difference in ranges for this one because during our conversations about this category, we ended up changing the category, so I can't compare the ranges, but the range we did the highest range in the old in the first version that we tried was like 28 points. The highest one in this one is 26 points, so still like a lot of range, but I think overall still smaller. So this is the median of those scores here. And same about what I was talking about earlier. Keep it at 200, go to 100. We'll finagle a little bit based on range. And this is the old order versus the new order. So we've got, and remember, these categories were changed like a little bit more significantly than the ag ones were. So it's not like a total one-to-one comparison here, but we've got natural features at the top. Good, sounds good for this category, love it. Then parcel size, wetlands, etc. And I like that groundwater recharge is like not at the bottom for either of these as we move into Blue Belt talk. It was surprising to me that proximity to protected land, I think, is lower on this list. That was surprising to me.
Yeah, that was just the main reaction that I had as well. Is how low it is now.
Yeah. So for the next meeting, I'll get the last two commissioners' scores incorporated in here, see how this changes, and select the actual points and show those to you. And I hope to show you as well, unless people like strongly react to this, if I get emails and you don't like how this is panning out, but otherwise I will be putting those points into, I will show you how they are distributed within each category, right? So like parcel size is an easy example. Our scoring system, says like 0 to, this isn't exact, I don't remember exactly what it is, but this is the idea. 0 to 20 acres is like 5 points, 20 to 60 acres is 8 points, above that is more points. So I'm going to divide that out or figure all that out, show all that to you. We might be able to approve it all next meeting or the one after if there's still discussion. All good? Okay.
All right. Thanks, Rosie. If anyone has questions or comments, as Rosie said, sounds like feel free to email. Otherwise, we'll look forward to seeing the scales and everything rolled out next meeting. Are you, Rosie, ready to move into new business, the Blue Belt framework?
You bet.
All right, take it away.
Okay, are you all excited? I'm excited. Okay, so I'm going to, we're going to present the framework tonight for adoption, or for for your consideration for adoption. But I'm going to start like all the way back at the beginning, just to reorient us of like why we're doing this, how land preservation and water quality are connected, and then get into the technical stuff. So I want to reorient us to the Greenbelt mission, the open space and parkland preservation program's mission of land preservation, which has always been described with 3 smaller goals, which is to preserve farmland, natural green infrastructure that safeguards drinking water, and open spaces, recreation, and biodiversity. Those are not just goals. Those are part of the mandate of the 2003 ballot language, which said that the millage was for the purpose of preserving and protecting open space, natural habitats, and the city's source water. We have already worked in all 3 of these categories protecting 75 working farms, over 2,500 acres of natural area, much of which includes public nature preserves with recreational opportunities, and for water, 28 miles of river, stream, and waterway frontage. Preserved forever. So we've had this drinking water, requirement, I guess, or goal for a long time. During the Greenbelt's 2019 strategic planning process, participants repeatedly emphasized water quality, especially drinking water quality, their great concern, and where the Greenbelt could do more. All these, so you see prioritize water quality on this list of priorities, and I've also highlighted these other sort of sub directions that play out in the Blue Belt as well. But we hear this demand to prioritize water quality, not just locally, but we also hear it from our local partners. For instance, Washtenaw County Parks has a stream protection priority category for both their natural areas and agricultural lands protection. We hear it from the state all the time in their creation of their Forest to My Faucet program, which focuses on water quality and land preservation. The state hosts a conference on the state of the Western Lake Erie Basin, all talking about water quality. And Eagle has a source water protection program that does some stuff tangentially with land preservation. Something I forgot to mention in engagement is that I went down to the Land Trust Alliance rally the other weekend, along with most everybody from Legacy Land Conservancy, which is the rally is the national conference for land preservation organizations, especially nonprofit land trusts, but there are a lot of governments there. There were at least 4 sessions at rally on the intersections of land preservation and water quality. So this is something supported as a concept by all our peers, all our other colleagues across the country, the state, local, everywhere. But we have known this for a long time. This is not the first time Greenbelt staff and GAC commissioners have wanted to focus more closely on water quality. The Greenbelt managers before Remy and I left notes and ideas about new ways the Greenbelt can focus on water quality. We currently just happen to be in a good supportive part of the timeline to be able to implement something new. I want to establish more about how land preservation generally benefits water quality. So this is pathway number 1. We commonly talk about land preservation as being preventative, especially with conservation easements. Conservation easements prevent land from being developed, we say they prevent impervious surface, prevent additional runoff, prevent forests from being cut, and prevent wetlands from being drained. In addition to all the preventative, we do need additive water quality efforts, which many of our partners at other agencies work on. But land preservation as a preventative of pollution has a strong and measurable impact. The Greenbelt's just shy of 8,000 acres, the Greenbelt's 7,995 acres, can be estimated to prevent all these different things you see here. Total suspended solids, lead, even nitrogen and phosphorus, can be estimated to prevent all these things from negatively impacting our waterways by restricting land conversion. By preventing these nutrients and pollutants from entering the waterways, it also reduces the amount of money that water treatment plants, including Ann Arbor's, have to spend to treat our drinking water every year. So by preserving land, preventing it from converting to development, or even in some cases agriculture, we are preventing all of this.
Moving on to questions in between, Rosie, at the end.
Yeah, I'll take questions. Sorry, I should have said that. Yeah.
Just a question about those numbers, because I've seen, different versions of them, and
Yes.
over time, our ability to estimate those has changed and all. if this is a communication tool, I guess I think it's kind of important to distinguish here whether these numbers represent the difference between preserved, meaning it's forested or its land cover as vegetation, versus development. And there are certain numbers that we know are true there, versus agriculture and development, which would be the more conservative difference. And I guess I wonder which ones you're showing here.
Yeah, sure. This is a estimate of many that can be used. Yes, there are many like modeling tools out there. This one's a fairly simple one that we've used on and off over several years.
Is this Eagle or?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Sorry, it's EPA, I
Okay.
believe, not actually Eagle.
Okay.
Really old. They're updated ones. But what this is, I put in both our agricultural land numbers and separately our natural area numbers. And so it's based on like agriculture not being converted to low density residential, pretty much. And then for the natural area input, I had some acres being converted to residential and some being converted to agriculture. And that was it was a little arbitrary of a choice, but it was, yeah.
No, I think that makes them way more legitimate than if you just assume they're all the same from that difference to development. So if this becomes, a broader communication tool, I think sort of stating where those numbers come from would be useful.
I think yes. I think we want to use more sophisticated tools. So these are estimates. These are broad numbers, didn't include 1,264, but yes, you're right. Thanks for asking that.
Cool.
Okay. Perspective of stream functionality. Here we have the stream functions pyramid, which is something I just learned about, but describes well something we often say. So in this diagram, geology and climate are things we cannot control, but 1 through 5 are, with 1 being the foundation of where we need to begin with hydrology. So hydrology includes the precipitation runoff relationship, flood frequency, and flow duration. And those are the things that land preservation of ag and natural areas is protecting. By preventing impervious surface and soil disturbance, we are allowing for continued soil filtration that supports these hydrology parameters. And without a healthy hydrology function, the rest of the water quality factors are only improved with greater difficulty. So this is fundamental. It is the basis upon which everything can be improved. I think we can say that protecting wetlands and forests around water features probably does do a little more for water quality on an acre by acre basis than protecting ag land does, but ag land still has that hydrology function. Wetlands have an obvious connection to water quality. Forests are critical for water quality. Quoting the DNR, watersheds with forests covering more than half of the land area tend to have better water quality than those with fewer trees. Forests intercept sediment, nutrients, pesticides, and other materials in surface runoff and reduce nutrients and other pollutants in water flow. But agriculture is a human necessity in its own right and a declining land use. It's important to our food system and all the other things, all our other goals, and has this water quality, this hydrology function. Pretty picture. I'm going to talk about quickly, like a couple other specific ways that farmland benefits water quality, just because it's still part of the Blue Belt. So adoption of conservation practices, which are things that land management practices essentially for farms. It is an NRCS term, conservation practice. Adoption of those, like riparian buffers, like filter strips, like no-till, any and all things. While adoption of those generally have a likelihood of improving profit and perpetual ag production in the long term, they do cost real money, time, and energy up front. We know statistically and anecdotally that farmland renters are less likely to invest in conservation practices, even if they want to, because the instability of land control inherent to renting amplifies the risk of not seeing the return on investment of those conservation practices. 42% of Michigan's agricultural land is operated by renters, and that's a comparable average to Washtenaw County. And that percentage has only grown since 2007. We often say our land preservation tool of the conservation easement lowers the overall sale value of a property. And with that can help bring this percentage of renters down. Land is expensive these days, especially for newer farmers, and in the Ann Arbor area, as we know, with our whole Buy Protect Sell initiative. That's who's being quoted here, one of our BPS buyers. A conservation easement, can ensure that will lower the underlying fee value, reducing some of that financial barrier to other farmers who would want to buy it, thus increasing the number of people that would be, or the percentage of farms that would be more likely to adopt conservation practices that benefit water quality. The American Farmland Trust took this little statement up to the federal government to promote conservation easements and conservation practices. So a recent study they had found that a majority of landowners with conservation easements have conservation plans, and over 75% have adopted at least 3 conservation practices. They don't say why. I have some reasons, but the statistic is what it is. This gets down to some of the technical elements of conservation easements themselves. So a few farm conservation practices are based in land use, which is what conservation easements are good at controlling. I mentioned riparian buffers, which is an area of trees and shrubs located adjacent to streams, lakes, ponds, sinkholes, and karst areas or wetlands. And they intercept sediment, etc. I want to bring those to your attention early on purpose because I'll refer to them later. But on a conservation easement, if a landowner of a conserved farm property decides to plant forest around their creek or take it out of production, let it grow into forest, whatever, or if they decide to restore wetlands, the conservation easement in many cases, probably not all, but many cases would protect that new forest or that new wetland as wetland in the future. So we can, when farms make additive changes like that, the conservation easement can protect them in certain cases. Also, if you have questions, you just have to kind of shout them out because I can only see one person. Okay. So based on all that, attention to land preservation and water quality, in April 2024, our city council approved a new boundary called the Blue Belt. The Blue Belt opens an additional spatial area in which we may spend our resources only for projects that benefit the city of Ann Arbor's drinking water source quality in what will be in multiple measured ways. The boundary is defined by, to remind everyone, is defined by the Huron River watershed upstream of where the city extracts its drinking water, which is at Barton Pond here, cut off at the Washtenaw County line. The Huron River extends further north of Washtenaw County into Livingston and Oakland, and a little bit into Ingham, and down into Wayne County and a bit into Monroe. but that's not upstream of where we pull our drinking water. But there are a few reasons that we kept it to Washtenaw County rather than going further upstream. The main ones being that all of our established partnerships are with organizations that work in Washtenaw County. And there are other locally funded programs here. There aren't upstream of Washtenaw County. And with 8 or 9 years of the open space and parkland preservation millage remaining, we need those partnerships and money to hit the ground running now. I'm gonna start getting technical. Any questions lingering out there? Alrighty. A little bit more context of the world in which we are developing this blue belt. Yeah, we've got like 9 years left. The blue belt did not come with any additional money. We are working with the same amount of money. We have in the last couple years, rolled out our Buy, Protect, Sell initiative, which is still a priority for us, also based on our 2019 strategic plan. And of course, we have the regular green belt. So meaning the blue belt is important, but next to several other very important things we're doing. Some unfortunate context is that federal funding for land preservation is drying up or becoming less stable for everybody around here. So we may have to become a little bit more diligent, I guess, with the projects we select or selective with the projects we select. And of course, I make all these points about land preservation and preventative, and our partners do, really good additive work, but we are restricted to land acquisition. That's what we can do with this money, but we want to use that well. So that brings me to sort of the values, I suppose, that sort of guided this development, which is to be strategic and specific, rather than very broad. And I wanted it to be based in science. Obviously, I wanted to be able to easily point to the water quality benefits of the properties done in the Blue Belt. Okay. There was a lot of, this took so long, I'm sorry this took so long, but this took so long in part because was engaging a lot of people. I've talked to all of these people at all of these agencies at one point or another. Also had, sort of casual conversations with a lot of other experts that I would meet in places just to kind of run the idea by them, but they weren't participating in an official capacity. But generally, when I talked about it, got good feedback on it. Did incorporate a couple specific things here and there. Of course, like big shout out to the Huron River Watershed Council, who I talk to frequently to check in at different points of the development of the Blue Belt as I came up with new ideas, and our own Ann Arbor Water, my colleagues here at the city, who did their best to keep me on a schedule and just check in occasionally to see if they could do anything or how things were going. So I really, really extra appreciate those two. There was a lot of research as well done. Saved a lot of resources if anyone's interested. Looked into other similar programs across the country. Looked into a lot of elements. Looked into, what really does affect water quality, to what extent, what does it the best, essentially what criteria should we be looking at? I had this question often of like, where does land preservation rather than management and improvement best benefit water quality? That was always an interesting small debate, I guess. But that informs the Blue Belt because what we're going to look at generally is sort of we're still looking at the way we look at a lot of conservation properties, which is we are looking for the best. We are looking for something that is a good conservation property already, rather than it would be a good one based on its location, for example, but is not currently a good conservation property for whatever reason. So we're still, like we do in the Greenbelt, we're still looking at, what meets all of these categories well, these conservation values well. So with all of this research, there were a lot. I collected so many different possible criteria that could have gone into the Blue Belt, examined a lot of them. Only some of them, not all of them, were actually utilized in the Blue Belt framework, a lot fewer than I was originally anticipating. It started getting to be a little bit too much layering. For example, some of the data that we had available was like fish populations in each creek, existing water quality monitoring information. I found this cool program that even looked at like number of culverts in a creek. So trying to like pick properties that had fewer culverts, or properties in creek sheds that had fewer culverts. Really interesting. So could have gotten even more specific and like detailed. And as strategic and specific as I wanted this to be, at some point realized this needed to be accessible to our partner programs. Give them something, tangible, easy to work with. So if we get into if the Greenbelt gets into direct outreach with landowners, then I will perhaps add some of those additional elements on for fun to get the best outreach list possible. But the actual eligibility that you will see here today, the actual framework will be lighter. Any questions there? No, good, okay. Hope you are prepared for a long lecture today. Thank you all, okay, for listening well. Okay, so that brings us to sort of the goal subset. So this is the sort of what the Blue Belt framework is. Mostly is like 95% talking about eligibility. So rather than a scoring. So so these are what guide eligibility. Properties that promote groundwater recharge protection, or properties that promote riparian buffer protection as water quality efforts. So, protecting groundwater recharge has these specific benefits: preventing flooding, maintaining groundwater sources for stream base flow. And, one of the predictions for climate change in our area is drier summers. This is kind of out there, but, it's possible with that might mean more groundwater pumping if we don't have, I don't know, access to as much rainfall. So that was something, that could possibly be affected here. And riparian buffer protection, prevents from or filters sedimentation or sediments and prevents erosion. Riparian, especially forest buffers, protect aquatic wildlife, especially by providing tides in the roots within the creeks, but also by adding shade, keeping shade over the creeks, keeping the water temperature low and oxygenated. Riparian buffers prevent nutrient overload and are helpful storm mitigators. So those are sort of the two branches here. So this is the summary of what I am going to present. I'm going to use it as a map. But so we've got, so first of all, the project I'm getting now like into like technical stuff. This is how projects are going to go. So the property will have to be fully in the Blue Belt. So then they're going to qualify, a property will qualify under either, it could be both, but under either riparian buffer or groundwater recharge. And then there's a couple of different pathways within that, reflecting the different priorities or the priorities that I heard from the stakeholders, and reflecting, the research that was done as well. So yeah. So to summarize, well, I'll just go. So I'll have this throughout the presentation here. So I'm going to start with the groundwater recharge protection project requirements. So if a property is submitted to us, either through a partner or directly to us, examining it through a groundwater recharge lens. So for a project to qualify under groundwater recharge, the property has to have at least 15 acres of natural area. The rest can be anything. It can be agriculture. It can be agriculture for the most part. But this is reflecting that natural area does have a slightly better benefit to water quality. But it's also acknowledging that wetlands are not the only water, or I'm sorry, use type or natural area for that matter that promotes water quality. There are other elements, different types of soil, sandy soils, I think in combination, with a wetland does something, that's water goes into sandy soils or filters in there faster. And then there's, I don't know, source and seep stuff. That was a result of a conversation with a couple of natural areas experts who know more than I do, but this is acknowledging what they had to say. And the project has to be in one of these township sections in blue here. So this is based on a data set from the state about estimated groundwater recharge. There are a million different models for groundwater recharge. This is one that was well published and that I understood well enough. So went with this. They're all probably good. This is the one we're using. So what I did here was this has information on average groundwater recharge rate across a township section. It has that information for every single township section. What I did here was take the township sections within the blue belt and distribute them in a normal distribution. And I took the average recharge rate, the townships with an average recharge rate higher than one standard deviation from the mean. So basically this means the township sections with the highest average groundwater recharge rate. And that's what's highlighted. So that's option one. So that is following this pathway down here. Groundwater recharge project has to have at least 15 acres of natural area. Project located within a township section with a high average groundwater recharge rate. So that's option one. Option two is the property has to have 15 acres of natural area still. But we are fortunate to have lots of experts around here that go and visit properties for us. And we recognize that GIS does not know everything. Site knowledge is important and yields different, often better information. So a lot of the times in our projects, since they're all in Washtenaw County, so especially for natural area projects, the Washtenaw County Parks Natural Areas Technical Advisory Committee gets to go out to the sites and evaluates them. So this is mostly what I'm thinking here, but it can be any team of experts. But this team of experts has gone out to a site and said, like, yes, there is on-site significant groundwater recharge happening here, and this is why. This is where it is. So just didn't want to discount expert knowledge here. And this is a nice photo of part of NATAC and Washtenaw County Parks and Legacy on a property visit yesterday that I got to go on as well. These are a couple. So I've taken this presentation, or a very similar presentation, to our stakeholders, to our land preservation partners, I should say, the other agencies that do land protection. And I've spent a lot of time talking to them about, like, would the projects they have in mind already actually be eligible? So I've gone through that process with them for both categories, though I'm jumping the gun here, but and they do have properties that are eligible, so they were happy about that. And when I presented to them, I showed them a few of their pending properties that would probably qualify. But what I'm showing you here is projects that have already been completed that would have qualified under the Blue Belt for groundwater recharge. So on the right here, I'm going to start with that. This is, I don't have it highlighted, but this whole parcel here is outside the Greenbelt, but that's Baseline Lake Farm, where Argus is. That's the Argus farm. That would have qualified under option 1 of groundwater recharge, because that is in a township section with a high groundwater recharge rate according to that map. This one on the left, you might remember this property. We closed on it, or we didn't close on it. The township, Webster Township, closed on it earlier this year, I think, at the beginning of this year. This was one where NATAC's notes from the county specifically happened to say that there is significant groundwater recharge occurring here. It also happens to have a creek on it, but they mentioned that, they documented it, that would have been eligible for Blue Belt. And in both of these cases, there's more than 15 acres of natural area. Over here on Baseline, this is like 30. Yeah, this is like 20 or so. So that's groundwater recharge. Riparian buffer is next. So I will take questions on groundwater recharge. Saving them to the end is totally fine too. Okay. Do we like it so far? Are we on board? Okay. Okay, I'm going to move on to the riparian buffer element. Okay, that's this half of the decision tree here. So project requirements to qualify under riparian buffer. I went really deep into this at one point, and this was really what I had to all walk back. So, so we have two, again, like two options within here too. So this one is getting at, like, what is sort of the best where, so this is trying to look at, ultimately what the best means here is it in one of these 3 branches, or creek sheds rather? So the main Huron River branch was a priority identified by HRWC, and Boyden Creek and Honey Creek South were priority creek sheds according to Ann Arbor Water, our other main partner here, because those are the creek sheds that dump out closest to where we pull our drinking water. So those are the priority creek sheds, essentially, those 3. So a property with a creek in one of those creek sheds has to, this is based on buffers. So what I did, this was like started as a GIS analysis, right? So taking the amount of creek on the property, buffering it 100 feet, and measuring the area of that buffer. Okay, so that buffer area around the creek has to be at least 1 acre. And for all this riparian buffer stuff, that 100-foot buffer, approximately 100-foot buffer, has to be all forested or vegetated. It can be currently forested or vegetated, or the landowner can be willing to take that area out of production or install a buffer. So that's a little intense. There's a lot of properties out there that do already have this buffer. That was sort of part of the analysis, want to make that clear. But like, we recognize this is something that might prevent some people from participating, and that's okay. This will have a really important impact, I think. 100 feet was decided on based on lots of different research. It is a standard across agencies. It's definitely like a really nice to have one. It kind of starts off at like 25 to 50 feet, but most places really want 100 feet. Once you go past that, the water quality benefits reduce, essentially, are not as strong. That's past 100 feet is a little bit more about wildlife habitat and a little bit less about water quality. So I am very confident about this 100-foot buffer. The creeks on these properties, the entire creek does not have to be in the property. A lot of property lines follow the center of creek lines, and that's okay. But still the buffer on the subject property has to be 1 acre or more. So that was a lot more stuff. Yes,
Rosie, I have a
Elizabeth.
question. Thanks. For A, just to clarify, the property has naturally occurring surface water that flows into the Huron River. Are we saying that it's a perennial stream? I'm just thinking there are different source maps out there. Just wondering how we're determining this.
No, that's a good question. It was something I looked at, like, do we want seasonal? Do we want perennial? Yeah, like what level of stream?
Mm-hmm.
I'm leaving that open at the moment, I guess. But it needs to show that it goes eventually to the Huron River. I mean, it does. Everything in the watershed does, but so I'm hoping for. It's kind of hard because the ones that don't have surface water as frequently or like all the time are slightly more likely to be headwaters. So some of the and headwaters are very impactful on water quality, and we want to protect that. So that's kind of why I'm leaving it open. But
Thanks.
I see Sheila's hand.
I'm saying this within the context of knowing that we also have a green belt and that there will be plenty of properties that qualify for the green belt, even if they don't qualify for the blue belt. So maybe, I guess I'm leaning towards being even more conservative here about the concern that the landowner was willing to install a buffer, and both what that sets up in terms of staff time to follow up on that and see if it is, and what kind is it, and what criteria you have for the species, but also because the kind of buffer that would be effective, at least from what I understand, would have to take years to be as effective as one that was already there. Like either it's prairie plants or it's deeply rooted trees or shrubs, because just to take it out of production would not be an effective riparian buffer. So I guess more, you've got two things there, the groundwater recharge, and then really it has a creek, like it has surface water. That's a benefit. But then does that have a riparian buffer would be your sort of number one. The way it's set up right now is you're calling it either has it or the landowner is willing to install it as equivalent. And that's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, I can answer that.
Take that out personally and to make it even more conservative. Yeah.
Yes, I can answer that. So the installation or removal from production would have to occur before the easement gets placed. Because yes, I do not want to be checking on that. And we've talked about this, about conservation easements. Us and the other land preservation agencies have talked about this a lot, about how we don't want affirmative language. We don't want to require something that isn't there because of exactly what you said. it just like creates a conflict immediately. So if they wanted to do it, they would have to do it before the easement was placed. But we could agree, that pending you doing this, we will place a conservation easement on it. To the rest of your point, the projects that are going to be easier, that are already coming through first and will come through first and more easily, the ones that the landowners that will agree to this are the ones that already have the buffers. And any outreach that we might end up doing is also going to be to people that already have the buffer. And that just the reason that's easier is because it's easier for the landowner because it's already there. They don't have to make any change. They don't have any expectations of it being agriculture or developed or something. It's fine. And it kind of already goes with our existing conservation easement language of you cannot clear cut no matter where the forest is, So I think this will ultimately tend toward the first half. It already has that buffer. But I would not want to personally dissuade land people from installing I wouldn't want to dissuade people who want to install one, because your point is well taken. It will take a while for it to have the effect we're looking for, but we're operating on a forever scale, theoretically, ideally. So at some point it will get there. And if our time scale is forever, it's still good. And a positive change has been made, which we don't get very often.
Yeah, you want to incentivize that positive change, but I guess to me, unless it's forested, in which case it's protected by the easement, just out of production and old field vegetation or even some willow shrubs would not fall under the easement long-term for protection. So that would be not a long-term buffer. Kind of similar to other good practices.
Sure.
Which we also mentioned, yeah, you want to incentivize that, but we can't control that long-term. So I guess I would want to see this set up for that long-term vision so that it makes sure once we've gone through the places that already have the buffers, that you're not then prioritizing places without buffers over.
Yeah. So it will be protected with special easement language.
I see. So you can protect the riparian buffer vegetation no matter what it is.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, that's different. Yeah.
Good question. That's at the very end.
Okay, sorry.
But yes, it will. That's what would probably have to happen is some sort of riparian buffer language.
It's just so fuzzy what it is. That's I guess it can be.
If I could just jump into for a minute, Rosie, to kind of get at your question, Sheila. So, when we were talking about this and taking off my GAC hat and putting on my HRWC hat, when Rosie was first kind of putting these criteria, thinking through them, putting them together and chatting with us about it, definitely I, agree with you from like a ecological standpoint. Those more established buffers are doing more good now. But the impact of particularly farmland, active agriculture on water quality is so outsized, compared to, obviously not compared to like impervious surface, but on these undeveloped landscapes that we're talking about. What I like about this option is it gets landowners thinking about how they could continue to produce on their land, use the property for agriculture, but also install practices that are going to benefit water quality in the long term. And, taking land out of production near riparian corridors is going to be necessary to get, our phosphorus targets down, nitrogen targets down, that kind of thing. So, given Rosie is confident that the conservation easement could protect that installation, whatever it looks like in the long term, I think this model is a cool way to see how and whether there's interest in the community in installing these types of practices in order to receive an easement. So I think from the Watershed Council's perspective, we are really supportive of this clause, if you will. even if it's just one or two property owners that ends up engaging with it, I think it could potentially be a really good kind of pilot in the area for land protection and agricultural riparian corridors.
I have
Elizabeth,
another
thanks, Kate.
question. So given I'm going back to having an EPA grant and writing a model riparian buffer ordinance for HRWC, and I'm reminded of the issue of ag drain tiles that can circumvent a 100-foot vegetated buffer. And so I'm just wondering how that potential complication maybe was discussed when putting this together, or if is that something that we also need to I just want to make sure that we're looking at that in putting together which properties would be desirable. So and for folks who don't know what I'm talking about, like you can have 100-foot forested buffers that are really great vegetation for slowing and filtering storm water runoff. But if there are drain tiles that are bypassing that overland flow, then you really aren't getting the benefits. So just wondering if that was discussed.
That never came up, to be totally honest with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that for the groundwater one as well. I think it applies to both. If you've got a property with drain tiles, it can look good like from the surface that it has groundwater recharge, but it's not doing it, or it's diverting it.
I think it
And
came
you
up,
can test for tiles, I believe, in some way.
Yeah,
But I would err towards excluding properties that had tiles and taking them out as a major thing.
yeah, I think it came up indirectly in the way that Rosie had made a strong recommendation that basically a lot of ag land be avoided or deprioritized through the evaluation of prospective applications. So I don't think it was intentionally covered, but by way of the makeup of the land that we're choosing to place a higher value on in the criteria, I think we may avoid a lot of that concern, but it maybe time will tell. And we bring a few applications to you all, and it's something that we know in there in the staff evaluation about whether or not we were able to acquire or ascertain whether or not there are tiles on site and how they flow. That's definitely something we can add to the on-site evaluation process.
Okay, so a couple thoughts. I think as far as the groundwater recharge, to me, the primary piece of that is the 15 acres or more of natural area. So, even if you have a lot of agricultural area on maybe 100-acre parcel, the protection of that 15 acres or more of natural area is really where the groundwater recharge's benefit is coming from. Ideally, if the ag land that's there isn't tiled, I agree that would be better, but still, as we're always talking about, like into the future, if it ever is taken out of production, then it's protected from at least becoming impervious surface. So I think for the groundwater recharge, that 15-acre natural area piece coming before anything else is the key part there. For the drain tiles and the riparian buffer, that's a really good point, Elizabeth, and I wonder, Rosie, if I attended the Washington County Conservation District's field day last year, and they had some MSUE folks there were talking about using vegetated buffer strips as filtration for tiles. So, and maybe Roseanne, you may be able to speak to this more, but the experiments that are being done with having tiles that still spit out into the buffer strip, but not into the creek itself. So then filtering the tile drains through the vegetation. So you still have a tiled field, then you have a wide buffer strip, and then the pipes end underground and are routed through that strip intentionally. So I thought, this is not my area of expertise, but it was an interesting presentation that MSUE provided at WCCD's field day. So maybe something as we're kind of finalizing this and you're continuing to do some research, Rosie, maybe would be worth looking into. I don't know if that practice is purely experimental or if there's actually producers out there that are trying that.
There are areas that do use grass waterways, but there has to be the right kind of fall to the topography of the land for it to work. It's actually used a lot in Illinois, but not that much in Michigan because it just doesn't, the topography just isn't as conducive to being able to effectively use grass waterways. So most people here tile.
And that was kind of my understanding, is that I think the vast majority of farms I encounter are tiled. So I thought the odds of finding a non-tiled one would be low already. So might just, you never know. Again, in perpetuity, maybe it could change and that'd be great. But I guess it was sort of a reality that we were dealing with.
Rosie, maybe in
Yeah.
the interest of time, you know, if you did want to move on to that second branch of the riparian buffer.
Yes, I will. But no, that was
area, not to-
good. No, thank you. Yeah, no, sorry. Now I'm just contemplating it now. Oh, Julius, yes. Or not. Okay. Oh, I saw it. Sorry. Hold on. Oh, he's still an attendee. Okay, I promoted you, Julius. I hope it works. Okay.
And I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to leave early. I hope we hope everyone can continue on.
Yeah, no, yeah, we can. No problem.
Okay, great.
Thanks. Thanks, Bentley. Do you have any oh, no, he's gone. All right. Okay, option 2. So same idea as what you just saw, but this property can be in any creek shed. But because it's not in a priority creek shed, we're upping the minimum riparian buffer area to at least 5 acres rather than 1 acre. And several partners have submitted projects to me that fall under this, which is great. Again, sorry, some not really pretty pictures of past projects that may have qualified either one of these. Is these two on the right here, these two easements have this creek here that flows, and these were like 100% forested, I think, that flow right into the main Huron branch. On the left here, also in Webster Township, actually, in the Greenbelt, but like here's the Mason Pop that we did a couple years ago, big CARES easement. So this here, this is an ag, but this is all forested, and this is about 8 acres. So that would have qualified under option 2. Something nice that came out of this during the GIS work is that a lot of this work has already been done, and maybe not only by us, but by all our other partners, and we should celebrate that. So all of these parcels here are, a lot of that's Waterloo Pinckney, but those are all protected parcels that are in high groundwater recharge areas, and all of these highlighted creeks are protected creeks already. And that's great. So another reason I think we can be somewhat strict and strategic is because a lot of good work has been done. So yeah, easement language requirements. I don't want to go too, well, clearly y'all were thinking about it, so I'm glad I'm bringing it up here, but not going to go too in depth because still open. Well, one, we don't, not really GAC's purview as much, but still working out, some specific language with lawyers and our land preservation partners. But wanted to point out that, like, when researching language for water quality, for water protection, the recommendations, the vast majority of recommendations were things we already do in our conservation easements. Our conservation easements are already strong in this regard. So these are things that are already required in our typical easements that promote, water quality, and will continue to be in our conservation easements. Broadly, the new language that may be required under the Blue Belt is some additional riparian zone restrictions. So that's what Sheila was mentioning was necessary. And because we'll probably have a specialized conservation value. If you recall, in conservation easements, there's a whole list at the beginning that's of conservation values that say why we're protecting this property, what's important about it. And in most of them, we have stuff already related to water, but we might have a special one about water quality or something about the Blue Belt, something that enhances, making sure we pay attention to water as the conservation value of this property, so that we can defend it in the future based on that function. And so that's the summary again. So that's all eligibility, essentially. And so that will all be checked administratively. And then when it gets to you guys, you will score it, of course, as that is required by our ordinance. But just kidding, there's no extra scoring. We're just going to use our regular scoring system. So don't have to go through all of that. The eligibility system will sort out, the appropriate properties, and then we can evaluate it, through our other things we find important that we say make up a good conservation property. Actually going to end the slideshow for a minute. How do you feel about that?
Great work. Very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to see.
How are you open to more and more comments? Because this is a big moment. We have a resolution to adopt it if you're interested, or if you would like to. I know you all have like so much capacity to think about Greenbelt stuff outside of GAC, but if you want to, the option is there. Or if you have more direction that you want to give.
I have a question, I guess, about the 5 acres.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just trying to picture, like, in the event that, like, are we expecting it would be uninterrupted? Or like, how are we going to address that? If it's like, it's mostly the conditions that are desired, but there's, I don't know, it's a housing exclusion, a building exclusion, or I don't know what, but like, how have we?
So the entire riparian zone, the entire riparian area, there's no way we would allow development around the creek in a property protected for its riparian function. Mm-hmm. Ideally, the entire riparian area would be under the riparian zone, protected as vegetated or forested. The projects that I have looked at so far are like that. They sort of happen to be like that, or there's like a teeny piece of agriculture that would need to come out of production. I don't really have an answer to that. I think it would be a poorer riparian buffer if it was interrupted and periodic. But I don't think that's really how it is on the landscape, basically. If it is interrupted, it's in one spot, maybe, and I think we can negotiate that.
It kind of already is interrupted across the landscape, right? So if it's interrupted within your little parcel, if you think of it that way, I mean, ideally you would want it, but if you make the argument, well, it has to be contiguous in that little parcel, and then right outside that parcel, it's on and off around it. I don't know. It's a hard sell. I had a different question around that though. If is there a disincentive to be part of the blue belt over the green belt because now there's more restriction on development, so that which I agree with, like you have to restrict that riparian zone. Is there anything we need to do to make sure people are incentivized to be part of the blue belt? Like, what's the benefit to them in having further restrictions on what they can do?
The benefit to them, that will need to be communicated what the benefit is to them. Between choosing the green belt and the blue belt, there's only so much. There is overlap with the two boundaries. There's only so much. I think I would default to, in practice, sort of the green belt and see how they feel about doing more. Unless, they come with very specific interests in riparian protection. Would you agree with that, Remy? I hadn't, I had thought about it, but that's, yeah. It's like an administrative choice or landowner discussion choice.
Yeah, my take is that it's probably going to be project by project, and sometimes we, on a project by project basis, may have the leverage to force an outcome one way or another. And sometimes the project conditions, and what I mean by that is depending on the location of the project and what other matching funds are available, whoever the project lead is may be able to say the only way to get this project across the finish line is to accept these conditions. So it may become a negotiation tool, a bit of a carrot instead of a stick. And if it's even perceived as a stick, it's sort of like these are the options we have. That's it. But that said, we are in a position where people are able to walk away. And if it is a high priority parcel and we really want it, maybe we don't push that hard and we still get it under the greenbelt normal greenbelt terms, and we're still celebrating that outcome, if that makes sense.
Thanks, Remy.
Yeah.
Yes. Councilperson Malik.
Yeah, so I just have kind of like a big picture question.
Yeah.
Would it be correct to say then that by considering adding the blue belt into the conversation, we are essentially taking the same pot of greenbelt funds and broadening the eligibility of land we can spend those funds on? And that's to say, literally we're taking, the current greenbelt and saying we can also now spend that money on these blue belt areas for purposes mostly still related to the green belt, just with slightly tweaked to add in water quality.
Yes. That boundary was added in an ordinance change approved by City Council in April 2024.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, shoot, I did have a second question, but I didn't write it down. So, and I'm thinking that now. So if I think of it, I will raise my hand again.
I'll riff on that a bit, John, and just say, if anyone were to suggest that this expansion dilutes the impact of the available funds, I would counter that and say it opens us up to additional matching funds that we've never had access to because it's entering into a greater geographic scope with more municipalities that do have local millages and their own staff capacity to help complement what we do and reduce our own staff lead costs by opening us up to being further opening us up to be a grant making institution for water quality projects that benefit the city.
Great, thanks.
You could even argue it adds value to the existing Greenbelt properties if you've got upstream benefits and protected, you know, the adjacency and the upstream impact. Which is cool.
Rosie, were you hoping, are folks feeling comfortable as far as approving? I'm sorry, I don't know the official language.
Yeah. I've got some language. I've got some language up. I really appreciate the critical feedback and questions as always, and I hope we responded to them well. So if you're feeling comfortable on voting, I would love to. After approving it, it will. Yeah, we'll have to make some. I'll probably have to make some adjustments to our application, and work with our attorney on some new language, and have a few more conversations, with partners about that language. But essentially, we'd be able to start accepting applications and processing them.
Is there going to be some kind of public, well, I mean, this is public, but like an announcement, celebration, defining it? Because I think some of the things Remy brought up seem really important to mention in response to Councilperson Malik's, question of that big picture.
There was
a nice slideshow, but I would add some of that about how does it relate to the Greenbelt, both in incentives and then does it dilute it? Yeah.
Sure. I believe we touched on that on like the press. Did we have a press release? Well, it was like all the memos that we wrote when we initiated the Blue Belt. So yes, would draw heavily from that, and I think a press release would probably be the right thing to do to say we are accepting applications.
I would say that what Rosie listed as the final, like, minor due diligence items after approval today would probably coincide nicely with one of those projects closing and crossing the 8,000 acre threshold. And we use the 8,000 acre threshold as a means for a press release and complement that with, success plus here's the future and the Blue Belt's announced. And then, and as Rosie indicated, we already have several partners lined up to submit applications as soon as we tell them this program has come online.
That sounds like a solid strategy.
All right. Well, do we have anyone who is interested in, I assume this is similar to a motion as far as we have a reader of the resolution and a second. Is that true, Rosie and Remy?
Yeah, you can say motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt or motion to approve a resolution to adopt. Whatever. Yeah.
Would anyone like to motion to approve this resolution?
I can do that.
Great.
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Commissioners Schuler and Bloomer. Do we need to read it off for the record, Rosie?
Yes, nods okay. Remy's head.
Okay, Commissioner Schuler, would you mind doing the honors?
I make the motion. Do I make a motion to resolve? No, I just go straight into reading.
Yeah.
For the resolution to adopt a Blue Belt District framework for the qualifications, evaluation, prioritization, and implementation of open space and parkland preservation millage land acquisition and protection expenditures for the purpose of safeguarding the city's source waters or drinking water supply, as presented by city staff at the September 11th, 2025 meeting of the Greenbelt Advisory Commission.
We already have our second from Commissioner Bloomer. Is there any additional discussion that anyone would like to note? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? All right, the motion to adopt the resolution carries.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's exciting.
A lot of work behind
Rosie.
there.
Nice. Yeah, nice job.
And to everybody, and of course, special shout out to Kate, gotta say, who, you know, in her HRWC capacity was very, very helpful. Team effort, and again, it's a culmination of something all of the Greenbelt managers have been trying to do for years. Yeah, so lots of thought preceding this.
All right, so that brings us to the end of our agenda. So we have another opportunity for public commentary. Do we have anyone waiting to address the commission?
Oh,
No, we don't.
I see none. Yeah.
All right, great. So with that, we can move to adjourn. Could I get a motion to adjourn our meeting? Commissioner
I'll make
Riggs,
the motion.
thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
A couple folks, Commissioner Bloomer, I'm going to count you first. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. And the motion carries. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Rosie, for great presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Rosie.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
really
Rosie.
looking forward to.
Thank you for listening well.
I like the blue in it too. It's nice.
Mm.
See.
And nicely done chairing your first meeting, Commissioner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I copied your script and watched the recording.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, and
Good
have
night,
a good night.
everyone.
Take care.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.